there's a lot of activists within the video game industry who have been melting down over the EA deal that just broke a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's hilarious to see these people make such bold and wild claims and try to scare their audiences into being vocal on social media that we've gotten to the point where EA has had to swear the Saudis won't take away their creative control, while you've even got content creators who were on EA's payroll backing out of their creator programs, freaking out, even though they didn't condemn them for all of the terrible anti-consumer practices they've pushed over the years. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, over the past few weeks, since we heard about this behemoth $55 billion deal, we have seen so many people in the video game industry say these are end times for our entertainment, that oh, creative freedom is dead, there's going to be so much censorship, even though they haven't called all these things out that have been happening for years at this point to people who are not in their little echo chamber and people who do not think and talk the same exact way that they do. They haven't stuck up for indie developers, they haven't stuck up for double A's, they're only sitting here defending the AAA companies because they're doing their best to keep their access, to keep their jobs, things like that. And we had heard that a former BioWare lead writer had read the runes and speculated that guns and football were in and gay stuff is out, and they even said that there would be apocalyptically bad levels of backlash if they ended up taking the company in a new creative direction, which is just so funny to me. But because they've been so loud and they've tried so much to scare their audiences into being vocal on social media, now you've actually had them coming out and clarifying that they are going to maintain creative control in this post-buyout era. So the $55 billion buyout of EA, the largest leveraged buyout in private equity history, has plunged the future of the corporation into uncertainty. It's got to find some way to deal with the $20 billion of debt its buyers have lumbered it in with, and some fear that its new owners, featuring Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund and Jared Kushner's Affinity Partners, might be the kibosh on diversity and representation in games like The Sims, which would, per one of the series' original leads, be something of a death knell for it. And we do not know what direction they're going to take this company in, but you bet your bottom dollar there are going to be some layoffs, and ultimately there are going to be some games canceled. And because over the years EA has only hired one type of person, those people are now going to strike. They are going to refuse to work. They're going to go on social media and trash the company they work for. And we know that when some of these projects inevitably get canceled, they're going to feature a lot of diversity, and these activists are then going to freak out and say, oh, EA now hates insert identity, whether it's your sexual identity or the color of your skin or your gender, whatever the case may be. They are going to say that EA is one of the most bigoted companies in the world because this is how these people consistently work, and that's how they view the world. And of course, with things like The Sims, right, it's got a very big player base. There's lots of people who have invested lots of time and money into it, people who do love it, but because, of course, now you have this entire situation blowing up, you actually have creators deciding to leave their content creator program, saying, this is going to be too big of a change for me, which I'll get into in a second. It says, well, EA is trying to allay some of those fears via Polygon in a new FAQ for employees from October 30th. The company promised that it was still in a strong financial position despite the small matter of $20 billion in debt, and that it will maintain creative control over its projects even in its new era of private ownership. It also promises to maintain a thoughtful, steady approach to AI after stories circulated that the new owners are planning to make heavy use of the tech, which I don't think we can be surprised by at this point, since most companies are fiddling around with AI. They're trying to find ways to cut costs. Now, what I think is so hilarious about this situation is that the activist creators that were a part of these programs are exiting this network. So, the EA Creator Network is losing some of its largest Sims creators as they speak out on EA's controversial buyout. In the wake of the recent acquisition of EA by Saudi Arabia's public investment fund and private equity firms, a number of Sims creators are choosing to leave the EA Creator Network. Their decision stems from growing discomfort with the new ownership's ethical values and potential impact on the future of the Sims franchise. This to me is so hilarious because behind every company is a shitty executive or investor. There's always going to be someone terrible behind a company that you don't like. Does this mean you don't shop at Starbucks or 7-Eleven or Walmart or Target? You've never purchased a game from, in this case, EA. You've never purchased a game from Tencent. You've never purchased a game from NetEase. Like, if these are truly the ethical values you follow, then you literally are not buying anything anymore, and you must live in an Amish village, I suppose, an Amish community, because that's the only way you are, in this case, quote unquote, fighting the good fight. It says, for many of us, The Sims has been a tool of creative expression, trailblazing inclusion, and diversity in gaming. Now, with concerns about representation and transparency on the rise, some creators are opting to step away from official partnerships to preserve the integrity of their work and online community, which I truly and genuinely think that this is so hilarious, because you have a list of creators, people from like the gaming magazine, James Turner, Plumella, Steffo Sims. By the way, I've never heard of any of these people, but this is where they draw the line. The idea, the sheer thought that EA might go in a different creative direction, even though they're saying that they're not, but yet over the years, they haven't complained about any of EA's other extremely fucking anti-consumer practices and moves. When was the last time they talked about studios EA bought and then shut down? That's right, because they've never talked about these things. Maxis, Mythic, Bullfrog, Origin, Westwood, DreamWorks Interactive, Danger Close, EA Los Angeles, Phenomic, Black Box Games, Pandemic, Playfish, New FX. When have they ever mentioned any of these names on their channel? That's right, guys, they haven't. Why haven't they talked about the pay-to-win mechanics in literally every single game that EA puts out? EA had to admit defeat and unlocked all of the Battlefront 2 heroes and remove the pay-to-win mechanics because it wasn't making them as much money as they expected, and they faced major backlash for it. Have they ever talked about EAFC going pay to win? If you take a quick peek over on Google, you can see pages and pages and pages of results of people talking about how pay to win it is. When have they ever talked about any of these things? So they're sitting here saying this is where they draw the line, yet they are not willing to draw the line at customers getting scammed, customers getting ripped off, companies being greedy. Like, I'm sorry to say, but you being worried about EA's creative control being lost and, I don't know, one of their games being 5% less gay than it previously was, that's just not my biggest worry in the world. My worry is, yes, creators genuinely getting censored. Right now, nobody is getting censored, so you're blowing this whole situation out of proportion. And sure, I don't necessarily think that this EA deal is 100% of a win. It's going to be an absolutely great situation. It could go in a very bad direction very quickly. We could see them pushing pay to win more. We could see them predatorily monetizing their games. But at the same time, we haven't seen that yet. And you're sitting here leaving a creator program because of the sheer idea and the sheer thought that I don't know, The Sims might get a little bit less gay when there's no sort of confirmation of that at all whatsoever. EA is sitting here saying they're continuing to maintain creative control, and you didn't draw the line at any of their other absolutely terrible moves over the years. So I, of course, will be covering this more in the future. I think that EA's got a uphill battle that they're facing, especially where their public image is so bad at this point. But yeah, we have people within the video game industry absolutely freaking out and melting down over this deal still, even though EA is swearing up and down that nothing is going to change. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.